Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation is on its surface a very standard isekai story. A Japanese person in our world has an unfortunate experience which leads them to being teleported to another world. Reincarnated into this new magical world, they use their previous experience in our world and understanding that they have gained from video games and other such media to advance themselves in this world and take a role as a hero destined to do great things. On a very, very surface level that's very similar to a number of other isekai anime. Mushoku Tensei though does benefit from being much older than these series, not in its anime release but in its original light novel form. You see, the original light novel established a lot of these rules that other light novels and other anime series heavily took from and were inspired by in a number of ways. Isekai is a genre that I am familiar with, and I've watched a number of anime that I really enjoy from it, but it's not something I obsess over. There's only so much you can get out of these kind of stories for me. That being said, Mushoku Tensei is a great example of what works in these kind of anime. It bases around, again, a man who was a NEET, basically, in our world, a complete shut-in who didn't have any real interactions with the outside world, who tragically dies and is reincarnated into this magical world as a newborn baby. And this baby is Rudius Greyrat, our main character. Rudius, or Rudy as he'll generally be referred to, is born to two powerful adventurers. His father, Paul Greyrat, is a former noble who discarded that life for a life of swordsmanship and adventure, and his mother is Zenith Greyrat, a skilled healing mage who traveled with Paul in their adventuring party before they ran off together to get married and have children. What I think is one of the most interesting choices in Mushoku Tensei is that Rudy has his entire memory of when he was a 34-year-old Japanese man in his mind from birth, giving him a leg up in any kind of situation. Because from the moment he's born, he's able to focus in and learn about his world, getting years upon years of a head start that any other normal child would just be using to drool and crawl around. Using this advantage, as soon as he learns about magic, he starts investigating magic books and learning about how to control his own abilities and build on his own abilities, starting from a very, very young age before he should really understand the concept of magic to already mastering a number of skills that would take people years upon years of training. Additionally to that, the world of Mushoku Tensei is vast and beautiful and very deep, very similar to a number of other isekai or fantasy anime you see, with a wide variety of different races, different areas, different factions that control things, but feeling more realistic and down to earth in a lot of ways, where you can understand the alliances that occur between people. You can understand the differences and the difficulties of traveling in this world and how much it feels like a lived-in, built-out experience. Additionally to all of that, this show is exquisitely animated. There's a beautiful light and texture to this fantasy world that sets it apart from most other anime that I've seen. Fight scenes feel fluid, magic seems wondrous, and of course it also brings an ability to delve into those complex emotions that people have, to delve into them and draw them to the surface in ways that a smaller budget anime couldn't nearly easily as do from a visual standpoint. It is by all accounts and in most metrics an incredible anime, but it's at this point that I get to my main problem here. Because if there's one word that I would describe Mushoku Tensei, my feelings towards Mushoku Tensei, it's frustration. Even after all I've said about it, I will praise its animation, I will praise its world building, I will praise its character development and its story, but there is one aspect that drags all of those down and makes this a frustrating experience, and that's its pervertedness. In anime, I'm used to rolling my eyes at more sexist kind of behavior and jokes. There is a level to these kind of things where you just have to accept that anime is going to have these kind of uncomfortable moments of characters groping one another, questionable consent, but never have I seen it be brought to such a degree to be such a main focus of the story, to be as relentlessly distracting as it is in Mushoku Tensei. Not to say that Mushoku Tensei is the worst that does this, and those series didn't have redeeming qualities that kept me engaged. Which leads to the problem is that Mushoku Tensei does. Mushoku Tensei does have a world, does have a story, does have characters that I want to see the development of, that I want to see their continued story, that I want to see where it goes for these people. But while I'm trying to do that, I have to bear with the show as it goes through these uncomfortable moments. Again, from the time he is born, Rudy is a 34-year-old man, a perverted 34-year-old man, an incredibly sexist, perverted, gross individual. And I think it is accurate that someone who would be like Rudy was in his previous life, brought into this life, would act in those kind of ways. Its constant presence in the story feels unwarranted, or like, you know, you could have just not written these kind of moments. Nearly every single female character is sexualized to a degree in Rudy's internal monologue. Sexualized to a degree that I just find dehumanizing. Again, I review anime. I cover a number of anime that I am familiar with the perversion that is typical in anime, and this is a few steps beyond it. If you're a fan of Mushoku Tensei already and you're watching this, I'm sure you're rolling your eyes what I'm saying now. But there is something different about the way Mushoku Tensei treats its female characters as opposed to other series. And I can't excuse it. I had to pause at a number of points and really consider whether or not I was going to review this series or whether or not I was going to continue talking about this series. It has a number of redeeming qualities. It has a number of fun moments and clever writing that I think makes it a really great experience, but I can't get over how relentlessly horny the characters are, and how Rudy's constant horniness internally and externally, because he does take actions towards his desires, like groping his cousin, which again, you know, Rudy in that time, I believe was like 10 years old, but again, he's being controlled by a man who is 34, groping another person who is, I think, 12 at that time. So, you know, what the fuck? And that's not even the worst part. Not even the worst part by any means. There's a number of parts that are actually a lot worse than that. And just describing that right now really makes me question what I'm doing here. I've seen a number of people talking about Mushoku Tensei say that it's not as bad after the first few episodes, and that's not entirely untrue, but this kind of persistent feeling continues throughout the story, even as the plot develops, even as the characters build into new moments, even as the story progresses and our characters get older and more mature, and Rudy grows as a person. The story centers a lot around Rudy's maturity. Rudy is, again, a 34-year-old man from the time that he is born, but he's not a mature 34-year-old man. That guy, I don't think they ever really give the name of him. He went through a number of experiences in his previous life that stunted him emotionally. He went through a number of extreme bullying moments. He was a shut-in for the majority of his life. He never really interacted or grew or was integrated into society in any meaningful sort of way. Shut off almost entirely from his entire family, without any kind of friends, without any kind of real outside world experience. So as Rudy, he is growing, he is maturing, he is actually starting to become a real adult. And even while that's occurring, he's still being incredibly pervy all of the time. But it's not even that the moments get fewer and further between, it's that the reaction to these moments by the show, by the text, is that, it's kind of a shrug. Characters will react to Rudy saying, oh, he's kind of creepy, oh, he's kind of weird, oh, he's kind of perverted, but they'll still, you know, just go with it. I've said a number of times in previous videos that I like flawed characters. I like characters who aren't good people. I think it's more interesting and compelling in a story to have you try to sympathize with someone who is not a good person. And Rudy isn't a good person, but the show doesn't really ever treat him like he is. The show doesn't feel like it actually acknowledges what the problem with Rudy is. It takes these misogynistic moments and it doesn't do anything about them. It just accepts them, which just makes it feel like it's just a misogynistic work. This is not a claim I've made against another anime, I don't think, previously, but I would call Mushoku Tensei misogynistic in a number of ways. Its perversion and its exception of its perversion just feels like it crosses the bar far too many times without any kind of ever, you know, reconciliation for these kind of moments. There are moments where Rudy realizes that he's a pervert and that him being a pervert is alienating towards people, but other characters seem to still excuse him. He is a character who is still consistently praised, consistently accepted for who he is, even when what he is doing shouldn't be accepted. It's just shitty, which again is why Mushoku Tensei is, above everything else, a frustrating series. I think there's a number of ways that it is exceptional when it comes to isekai anime, when it comes to fantasy anime, when it comes to anime in general. It is an exceptional anime in its animation and its story, and these characters, a number of the characters, Rudy included, are very complex, that do have a lot of issues that the show addresses and talks about and wants you to think about. But there's ways that falls flat, as I just went on a long long rant explaining. As a reviewer and as a person just with friends who don't watch as much anime as I do, I have to be careful in how I recommend anime. I don't recommend, a lot of action-packed series to people who just aren't into action. I don't recommend series that have more of the anime tropes that I can excuse that I think a more standard viewer would just cringe at. And then there's a series like Mushoku Tensei, which I would never recommend to any of my friends. I don't think I could possibly do that. I think I'm gonna continue watching it, and I'm interested to see where it goes. But I don't think I could ever recommend this to somebody without being able to acknowledge that it is incredibly troubled to its core. If you can excuse all that, it's a great series. If you can move past all of that, it has a lot to offer you. If you can't, understandably, don't watch it. It's not worth your time. I hope this video made sense. It kind of felt a little more rambly than others, but Mushoku Tensei kind of breaks my brain in that kind of way where it's just this dissonance between uncomfortable but also engaged. But you know what? We'll just have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've got a few videos coming up that I'm really excited to talk about, a few anime that I really want to get my thoughts on. I think the next one I'm probably going to do is a ranking of kings. So if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, support. Let me know what you want. I'm gonna be here. Or if you just didn't like the video, if you leave a comment, let me know. I'm sure I'm gonna get a few comments on this one, but thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, a great night, or whatever it is you're having, and stay rad.